And finally, our last talk tomorrow is at 2 o'clock. Mr. Adolfo Nodal. He will be speaking on navigating Cuba right now. He is a producer and a Cuba business and culture expert. So those are the events that are happening here tomorrow, starting at 10:30, and I invite you all to come. After this talk, today at 1 p.m., we have a performance in the campus theater. It's a free performance from 1 to 3. I hope you can all make it. It's going to be wonderful. And it's called Panorama of Cuban Dance and Music. And without further ado, let me introduce our next speaker, who I'm very happy is able to join us. He is Professor Emeritus Raul Fernandez. He completed his secondary education in Cuba. He's from Santiago de Cuba. And he received his BA from the University of California at Berkeley in 1966 and his PhD from Claremont Graduate University in 1971. He's been on the faculty at UC Irvine since 1969, and his research is focused on economic and cultural transactions between the US and Latin America. He is currently chair of the multi-campus UC Cuba Academic Initiative. He has authored numerous books on various topics, including a book on Latin jazz, La Combinación Perfecta, and he is the curator of the Smithsonian Institution traveling exhibit, Latin Jazz. He is a social activist, a cultural philosopher, a labor organizer, an economist, a social scientist, and a musicologist. He is an encyclopedia of Cuban and Latin American music and a virtuoso in playing the maracas. His bio on his website says, accompanied by a select ensemble of musicians, he often entertains at department, university, and private engagements, and if the rhythm strikes him just right, he might sing some Cuban classics like La Gloria Eres Tú, Contigo en la Distancia, or Si Me Comprendieras, or he might even dance. So we don't know what's going to happen today. His talk is entitled Classical Popular Cuban Music Lives On. Let's welcome him.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I'm going to have to change that website where it says all those funny things about me. I think I have to get a microphone. Okay. Can you hear me?
Press and hold the power button.
Press and hold. That's what. No? Yes? Okay. Thank you, Dr. Factor. And for those of you who were here earlier for the wonderful talk by Mr. Arcos, I will try to follow on that, but my talk today should stand on its own. Okay? It has been said that Cuba produces many things that are bad for your health. Tobacco, sugar, revolutions. But there is one thing that Cuba produces that is very good for your health, and that is music. It's good for your heart, it's good for your head, it's good for your feet, it's good for your hips. So I want to talk a little bit about that aspect of Cuban culture. There are 3 or 4 genres in Cuban music that are considered to be the pillars. It's like a country with several musical columns. One of them, Mr. Arcos already introduced. It's kind of like the slowest of all the rhythms in Cuba. It's called the bolero. The bolero is a ballad, but it's a ballad that has a rhythm to it and you can dance to it. And so what I would like to do is begin with a bolero, a ballad by the same composer, Antonio Mendes, one of the leaders of the Philly football team. And I will play a different song. This one is called La Gloria Eres Tú. Why do I need to go to heaven if I have you here? You are heaven.
sea del mar, que es todo sentimiento, esos ojazos negros de un rayo fulgor que me don.
Okay, I'm not showing the entire song because we have limited time. I wanted to give you the taste of that. That particular singer is a very famous ballad and feeling singer in Cuba, Raul. Now, that's one of the columns of Cuban music, but it's also really a column of all Latin American music. If you have any Mexican, Latin American background, you're familiar with the bolero. There's been many, many great bolero singers. Luis Miguel, just to mention one, Jorge Quillo to mention another one. The second very important pillar, also mentioned by Mr. Acro, is the son, S-O-N. And the son is something that has been called the perfect marriage between the African drum and the Cuban guitar. I don't know how good that definition is, but it will work for me. And this is a very brief clip that I have of a rehearsal. I like to really watch and show rehearsals, people doing recordings and live music, rather than just straight ahead polished performance. The person here, this is in an apartment in Havana, and this group is led by a man named Pancho Amat. And if you are here and you go to the Music Center on December 1st, for the concert sponsored Roberto Arcos, you will see this man perform. Okay? So this is an example of the song. And when you listen to this song, you really begin to get to the core of Cuban music because you feel like moving a little bit to what they are doing. You don't know why, but you feel like doing that. Because the essence of Cuban music is music for dancing. Okay? And so, those of you that will be going to Havana soon, how many of you like to dance? How many of you like to dance? How many of you dance all the time? Great. So, when you go to Havana soon, you'll be able to dance to a lot of really good music. And certainly in the areas that visitors go to Havana, you will see groups that are playing son, playing very traditional song. And again, one thing I need to add is in Cuba there's a wide variety of music. I'll try and show you some of that. But son is being played still, the traditional son, everywhere. This is something, again, shot in a little outdoors bar in Havana. Son being played today that you can dance to. And I pointed with a laser to the young woman flute, one thing that Mr. Arcos mentioned. A lot of these musicians that you see playing street music are really very, very well trained. Well, actually, all of them. But I pointed to the flute in order to practice the flute itself. Now, the son, this is a very traditional form, but it has evolved a great deal. Okay, so from this very I don't know, skeletal forms, it went to the big band format, and then it has evolved. The son became the mambo, and then it continued to develop. In the last 30 to 40 years, one of the most, I think, extraordinary bands the world has known is a band called Los Ban Ban. And they play a variety of the song that came to be known as the song one. Here's an example of Los Ban Ban. Okay, again, I mentioned that in addition to the song evolving into the mambo and other forms leading to this style called songo, in the 1990s and even to today, musicians are always trying to create something new. So they mix the mambo, with funk, with rumba, which we haven't talked about yet, but I will. And they produce the music, which is still danced very much in Havana, called timba. I think, and again, Mr. Ackers pointed out, timba really requires some ability in order to dance very well. So this is younger music. Some of what you have seen you may consider to be old-timey music. So timba is something a little bit younger. And here's one typical band of timba you can find in Havana or in Cuba if you go today, even outside of Cuba.
Esto se pone caliente. Se baila en Cuba, se baila en Puerto Rico. Se escucha en Cali, en Europa y hasta en Egipto. Yo seguro que esta noche party, el país se pone rico. Y mira la cosa.
Okay, so we're going to jump back a little bit. There are some traditions that really have remained in Cuba throughout the whole revolutionary period. What I'm referring to is that in particular format in the orchestras. The Cuban son, or any kind of Cuban music, can be played by two formats. One that has all the percussion, all the congas, the bongos, the maracas, whatever you want. And the lead instruments are usually horns, trumpets, that sort of thing. And there's another format, which is still very much alive today, which is called the charanga format. And that is one that mixes the African percussion and the European-based instruments very, very, very well. The charanga is what's behind what became very popular in the United States in the 1950s as the cha-cha-cha, okay? So what I would like to do now is show you a video, something recorded in the 1950s, no, actually in the early 1960s, of a charanga band recording a cha-cha-cha, so you get an idea of what we're talking about. And also, I chose this one, again, in honor of Professor Factor, because there's two very good flutists in here that I think you will appreciate. forgot to mention that in fact when they were playing the cha-cha-cha is something that derives from the danzón. The danzón being one of those many other pillars. There's the bolero, there's the song, I'll talk about rumba in a minute, but danzón is another one of those pillars of Cuban music. In Cuba today, I think you can hear some of the best jazz in the world. I mean, I kid you not. I think some of the best jazz groups that you can hear live are playing Havana in Cuba today. One aspect of a Cuban musicians is outside of Cuba, people sort of separate musicians into, I play classical, I play jazz, I play rock, I play hip hop. One characteristic of many, I would say the majority of Cuban musicians, they play anything. Okay, so the same guy that you will see in the afternoon playing with a symphony will probably be playing for dance at night. The same person that is singing hip hop in a park someplace is also singing for a song group. So you have this wide variety of musicians moving from genre to genre. So long as it's good, they will play. And so several years ago, there was really an upsurge, a revival of some of the traditional Cuban music under the name of Buena Vista Social Club. This is a group that actually came to Los Angeles several times. And what I want to show you is kind of a mixture of musicians from the two traditions coming to Chucho Valdés, a great jazz pianist, playing with Buena Vista Social Club, a very traditional song group. And this, by the way, was recorded in Los Angeles. Okay, so we're going to move now to one of the really important pillars of Cuban music, which is rumba. Rumba is definitely a genre that's much more influenced by the African background. It has some European, some Spanish elements in it, but basically it's really a more African styled genre. I will begin by seeing how it has evolved from the 1960s to today. So the first thing that I will play is a rumba recorded in the mid-1960s. Okay? Rumba, if you've never seen it performed before, is a little bit like flamenco in the sense it has three parts to it. There is a music part, the percussion, there's a dance part, and there's a singing part. Okay? And so the music is played on drums, there's the vocalist, and there are the dancers. The dance of rumba is actually quite a complex one. Okay? In the United States dance departments, people have learned ballet, modern, they added flamenco to it, and then very recently a lot of music schools in the United States are dancing rumba. Rumba has been declared a World Heritage cultural forms by the United Nations. So here's an example of rumba. By the way, oftentimes it is not played on drums, on skin-headed drums. Oftentimes it's played just on boxes. Okay? Rumba de cajón, as it's called. rumba lead drummers, like the cajon player that was there. It's like in Brazilian soccer, they are known by nicknames, and sometimes you don't even know what their names are. So the guy there leading, with a cigarette in his mouth, playing the cajon, he was known by the name of Aspirina, aspirin. Because apparently when you listen to him, you felt better. Anyway, so this was in the 60s. I'll play something then recorded in the public square in Havana in the 1990s. Okay, so you see that there's continuity. This is not a folkloric thing that you have to perform for a select audience in a club that no one else listens to and it's died out. This is very much of a live form. Okay? So this is in the 90s in Havana. So if, the rumba dance is based on a very old traditional fertility dance, from the Congo River Basin, and obviously what is involved is kind of a game of the rooster and the chicken, and the man is trying to sort of reach out and touch or signal in the direction of the woman's abdomen, and the woman is sort of fending him off with graceful movements. It looks like a simple thing, but to do it right, through the music and the singing, it's not easy. So you want to take a class, and there's a few places where you can do that. One thing that has happened that has really changed the tradition is this. Like in a lot of music around the world, it was really a public space for men and not so much for women. And especially these genres are really male-dominated. In Cuba, similar genres have been male-dominated around the world. One thing that has happened in contemporary times is that women have really entered this territory. You saw the muchachos playing the song earlier today. One of the things that was more difficult for women to do in Cuba was to enter that sphere of the rumba, but that has been done. And what I want to show you now is some women singing and playing rumba in Havana today. This goes on for about half an hour, so we don't have time to go into all that. Anyway, the rumba too in Cuba has really inspired the classical field. And I have a piece of a very, very good Cuban orchestra. Well, actually it's a vocal called Camerata Romeo. By the way, again, if you're interested in classical music, some of the very best choral and classical is played in Cuba all over the place. Okay, so if you go to Cuba, you don't want to hear dance music, you don't want to hear Afro-Cuban music, you can go to a couple of places and listen to very, very good choral music. Okay. This is the Camerata Romeo playing on a theme from Rumba. See a lot of young faces out here, so